seconds, 8 seconds, 7 seconds. This is going to be a shambles even crossing over. 4, 3, 2, 1. Da, 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 da. And put your phone on Do Not Disturb, Steve, after you've done that. There you go. Welcome to Real Magic Review again. How are you? Please like and subscribe. Do all that stuff I just said in the other bit. I've updated the software on OBS and something doesn't work, but that doesn't matter, does it? We're all here just to hear me waffle anyway, and connect with each other. So how are you all? I hope you all. Let me know how you are. Let me know how life is. Let me know if you've done your first bit of performing. Oh yeah, sorry. Let me do the preliminaries. Like and subscribe. Check out cardmagiccourse.com. Someone the other day said, oh, why does everybody say like and subscribe at the beginning? Because if you haven't, it's really important. And so it's just a reminder, really, because any feedback is lovely. And even though when I do my comments on comment sessions, I don't read out all the ones that say, you know, really like the show and all that. I don't read them all out because it sounds a bit like self-indulgent to do that. It's really important that you tell me that you do like it, or if there's bits that you don't, because that's how I kind of know that we're on the right track. If I didn't know, I'm externally motivated, so I just kind of get lost if I don't get feedback. So do all that good stuff, and that's not just for ego, it's just to know that, you know, I'm doing the right stuff. You start at midnight for me. Oh man, I'm sorry. This is what it's like when we watch the, I was just about to say when I watch the Vanishing Showtime things, the live shows, but I haven't because it's on at 2 and 3 in the morning. So that's what it would be like. Some people are committed. I can't manage it. I'm too old. But yeah, I think I've said all the things, haven't I? So I'm gonna get into this. I'll say a quick hello. Yeah, Mr. C, how you doing? Douglas, here it goes. I'm gonna mess this up. Hoka Gekira, and Stephen. The fact that we're here, we're on the right track. Yeah, I know, it's great. It's great. I love it, man. I really, really like it. And then after this, we do on the card course, we have the live session tonight, which is great because just as a little preliminary, I've been doing my first bit of like showing people magic tricks that aren't just my kids that have literally no interest anyway, just socially, and it's super. I've been getting the shakes, my hands are like, I'll do a trick and after it's usually a trick that I'm trying new, so I just filmed one for the card course that we're going to look at tonight. Honestly, my hands after I mean, they're not, I've learned how to hide it now, but there's a little tremor, it's weird. It's I get nervous anyway showing people tricks that I know, because I always find that weird. I prefer a sort of audience that don't know me, but yeah, and it's getting slightly better. So I'm going to review Craig Petty's Gossip, and I recorded a performance of that today. Again, really, I've put it off for about 2 days. I procrastinated. So anyway, just to know if you're feeling that, you're not on your own. I'm going to go into this thing, and this is again goes back to it was Bryn. On the way back when I said I did a giveaway, and I did a thing of tell me what you'd like to answer, questions you'd like to answer on the channel. So I'm going back to those. So we did the previous ones, and now this one is, what a stupid thing to say. We did the previous ones. Of course we did. You've always done the previous one of everything, but it's because I couldn't remember what they were. But what was it again? Anyway, we did one that was based on a question, and Bryn asked about the common mistakes of beginners. So this isn't an exhaustive list. It's basically the things that I kind of did, but there are so many more. So if you've got any examples, let me know. So number 1 common mistake for beginners is listening to magicians and not your audience. Bear with me on this. If an audience, and I was thinking about this because there was a little thread on Facebook that I saw about the centre tear, and they were talking about Richard Ostlin's centre tear, and they said, how did you justify the tearing it up? And the people that had actually done the centre tear professionally a lot all kind of said, look, people just, it just flies. It's just kind of like, feels like if it's done nonchalantly, it just kind of flies, and the effect's amazing. But I've read a lot of people saying it's ridiculous. Why you've got to justify why you'd tear it up. The point of the matter is, if the audience are just there going, how the hell, you know, they've got nowhere to go with it and they're astounded, that's all the feedback you need, regardless of that other stuff. Now, it doesn't mean if you've got scripting that justifies it a little bit more in a soft way that isn't kind of what's the saying, not running while you're not being chased, not running while you're not being chased, and all that. Great, but don't over worry about certain things. And of course, if you do something and your audience don't quite react, then you've got to look at why that might be. And that doesn't mean you haven't got to justify a lot of movements. I was watching the Peter Samuelson masterclass the other day. One of the things I didn't mention in the review, and I do watch that review, by the way. It'll give you some insight about what Peter Samuelson himself, I think, which he may or may not agree with. But he did something that was quite a common thing with a deck of cards. I think it was in the second one. No, it wasn't the deck of cards. It was with an origami bird. It's a thing called Phoenix, I think it's called. And he fooled me with something that, knowing what I know, I shouldn't have been fooled by. And it's because he did justify every movement. He did something and covered something with a justifiable movement. So it doesn't mean you don't justify things and you don't listen to people who say that. It just means that sometimes, especially magicians that haven't been out and done it, that are hobbyists, and there is nothing wrong with that. There is a lot of magic I do that I will never perform, and I love it to bits. But at the end of the day, if you're performing for an audience, and by an audience I don't mean a professional audience, it could be whoever is standing in front of you or sitting in front of you, if they respond to it, then you're on the right track. So there's a lot of rule setting. There's a lot of rules that I've read. You should do this, you shouldn't do that. And I could go into many, many, many of them, and I disagree with so many of them and agree with a lot of them as well. But, just go with what's in front of you, and that's all the feedback you need to know you're on the right path, and then keep working on it and polishing it and making it as good as you can. And a lot of people say, well, a lot of people get mixed up with whether audiences are just being like sympathetic and they act and they pretend, you've done well. I think most of us know the difference. I know the difference when people get that gut punch reaction of a trick, and when they kind of go, yeah, that's really good, well done. We kind of know people aren't that good at acting unless they're professional actors, and they're quite good at acting, professional actors. But other than that, people aren't. So again, we kind of know when we've made that connection, I think. So that's number one, listening to magicians and not your audience. Number two is listening to your audience and not magicians. And that's because, and this is the caveat, we've got to know who we want to perform for. Because audiences don't know a lot about what you're trying to achieve. So all they get is the last effect. And there's a lot of paradoxes here, but you've got to kind of have your feet in both ways and be a little bit flexible. And that's, again, it's not following the things. Listening to magicians know that magicians who have done it, that have been there and done that, will know how to enhance an effect, even if you're getting a good effect. So this kind of goes against what I said. You might get an effect, but you might be able to enhance that effect with certain subtleties. And it goes back to that Peter Samuelson thing. If he did the thing, it was way more powerful. He didn't have to kind of wait for me to look up. I was watching anyway, but because everything was justified. And I couldn't learn that off an audience member. I have to learn that from a magician that has been there, done it, worked through it. And again, what he was doing, sorry, there's noise outside, what he was doing was taking stuff that he worked on for years and constantly enhancing it. And we can only really get that from magicians. Audiences like to give us advice about what we should do as well. Oh, you should do that, you should do this. And we've really got to make our own decisions about that, because again, they might not understand the world that we're in. Another reason you might want to listen to magicians more than lay people audiences, is because you might want to perform for magicians. That might be your thing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And to be honest, that's kind of where I'm going. I think I for years I just didn't get it. Why would you want to do that? And actually now I want to do both, right? And they're two different things, but I do want to perform for magicians because I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy lecturing, I enjoy talking, as you might have guessed. Really, Steve? No, Sherlock. So you've got to sort of know your audience, and that's kind of what it is. Decide who your audience are. Go, who do I want to do? And don't be judged. People are judging all the time. Why would you want to perform for magicians? Well, I've been there, I've said that. Or why would you want to... It's all about what you want, which goes on to number three. Biggest mistake is not listening to yourself. You know when you find something that you love, and I've spent so many years, I would say, learning tricks that I think, well, I should know that, and not really liking it, and kind of going, it's ballsy hell out of me, but everybody says it's great, so I'm going to learn it. And kind of getting to a point where I go, do you know what, I've got to admit, I just don't like it. Yes, I might like watching it, but I don't want to do it. It kind of bores me to do it, and there's a few tricks like that I've got to Now, if you find a different goal, so it might be boring to practice, but you actually really love that it might get you to a certain thing, then that's fine. But you've got to have something to drive you that isn't just you should do this because other people say. And you know, the amount of times I've seen people say, "Why would you do a trick with a thing that isn't a natural object? You've got to do them with everyday objects like cards." Yeah, right, because most people carry a deck of cards around with them and ask people to find them and lose them in packs and then find them again and do, you know, none of it makes any sense. Let's just embrace that fact. The fact is we're showing something that entertains them and they find it impossible. I'm taking them on a journey with that thing. So I used to hate this sort of what I call trinket magic, but I've seen it really kill and storm in certain situations. So if you love something, that's contagious. You know, that really is. If people can feel your passion for what you're doing, whether it's ninja rings. I remember saying to someone, "Oh, I'm learning ninja rings," and they kind of gave me one of those comedy slaps around the face. They went like that, and I was like, "But they're really magical." It's like ding, they go. I mean, it's cool, right? And it might not suit you, but if it does and you love doing it, then do it and embrace it and just commit to it. Listen to what moves you, and that'll give you a good idea of where you want to go. And also understand that might change as well. You might get to a point, you know, keep checking in with your goals. You know, like me, I kind of was, you know, I wanted to do loads of close-up gigs and that's all I wanted to do. And now I'm kind of like, I don't want to do that many anymore. I kind of want to do that. So it's checking in with your goals. They do change with certain situations. So that's not listening to yourself. 4, rushing forward. So let's take an example. I am really loving going back to basics now with all aspects of pretty much everything I do, with juggling, with card magic, there's no shame in going back and learning how to juggle, shuffle a pack of cards and doing that stuff because it's enjoyable, and B, it really enhances and Ben Al said, I think, going back as a non-beginner to beginner stuff with that sort of different head on is really, really powerful. And also, I remember learning this sort of cull from the bottom of the pack, you know, culling a card like that. And I remember struggling with this for weeks and weeks and weeks, just culling a card. See that one there? Right, I'm sure we're fine to talk about that here. I'm just looking at that. Doing that. And the trick I was learning that required me to cull the bottom card and to do something with it. And it was a version of Chicago Opener. And I just was losing my mind with it. Because my ego, and I talked about this in the ego video, was stopping me from admitting that I couldn't do it and going back and just going, right, actually, just start the basics again. Do that, buckle the card. Just buckle the card. Learn to buckle the card. And our ego sometimes will stop us going back to that thing. And once the ego's gone, we can go back as far as we need to get what we've got sorted. You know, and take advice. Dave Annick's here, right? We were talking yesterday about kind of performance, and I'm admitting for the first time now that I've never really written a show, you know. So he was giving me amazing advice, really sound advice yesterday, and to admit the only way to get that advice and to use that advice is to admit that you kind of need it. And then for years I didn't, because I was doing shows, but I'd improvised them and kind of written them on the go on the street. But now I'm doing something different. I need that advice. So you know, not rushing forward, just being where you are, admit where you are, be self-aware, and there's no shame in saying, actually, I don't know that really basic thing that maybe I should have by now, but spending time with that. Number 5, waiting too long to perform a trick. This is a biggie, because if you wait too long, fear gets older, and it gets harder and harder and harder to do. And perform, again, I'm not on about being a professional, I'm on about just showing someone a trick. I know I've met people that, in both worlds, in juggling and things like that have spent so long on their craft and they're so good, but they get in front of people and they just totally lose it. And do you know what? I do a little bit, and that's fine, it's part of the process. But if you can do the trick and you're still thinking, I'm not sure I'm going to pull it off, you won't know until you try it, and which takes us to the next one in a minute. But I would, as soon as you've got it to a level, just do what you can and just say to people, I did, like I said, I went and did Craig Petty's, I showed David yesterday, Gossip, but I went and did it and filmed it earlier, and I knew I might nose it up because I almost didn't know if I could do it until I'd done it. And it could have gone wrong, and that's fine. So just get out there as soon as you can and just be flawed. Don't be perfect. It's all right. And the next one, which leads up to number 6, and that was number 5, waiting too long to perform. Number 6 is seeing a mistake as failure. all right? And I've put also or a poor performance or whatever. Mistakes, poor performances, all that kind of stuff is part of the process. I've talked about before that I used to see people doing stand-up that would do it once, darn their ass, and never do it again and go, well, I failed, I didn't do that. You know, street performers that would come and audition at Covent Garden, get their audition but not do a great show and be able to hold an audience and never come back. They judge it on their first thing. There are always, most of the time, failures in some form on the journey to anything good. And everybody that I know that achieves something really good has done the shows that aren't very good, have had the nights that aren't great, have made the mistakes with tricks. It's part of the practice process. So you've got to see it as a success, really. I know it sounds really cheesy, but the fact that you went and did the trick, I was really proud of myself for actually going and doing the trick today and recording the trick next door, because I kind of kept putting it off. I was like, I don't need to do it. And actually I did, and I hadn't rehearsed or anything very much, but I'd kind of run through it in my head, and because of that the tricks worked to a certain level. They weren't great, it wasn't great performances, the timing on one of the gags didn't get a laugh, and that's fine, but that's just part of the process. It will if I wanted to do it more. And the next one, the last one, is not rehearsing. So he says just saying he did a trick without rehearsing, but I did. I talked through the trick, and this is a kind of new thing for me. So I was talking about beginners making mistakes. It's a mistake I've made all my life, and again, talking to Dave about it yesterday, even if you're not going to be performing that script word for word, just have something that you're going to say. So the trick that I just recorded uses a jinx change. And I knew I had to have something to say when I'm doing that jinx change, right? So, and usually I just kind of have a look and go, I can get away with it now. So each bit of misdirection I had something to say. Now I did deviate from that, but at least I knew I had that as a fallback point. And I think if you're anything like me, you will hate rehearsing. I just can't bear it. It's awful, on your own especially. With other people it's a bit different, it can be a bit easier. But I remember every time, even with other people, I remember when I was at circus school back in the mid to late 90s, we used to rehearse for the show, and every time I got in there, I'd just sit there and go, I can't imagine doing this. My mind and my everything is so far away from wanting to rehearse now. And the first 10 minutes were like pulling teeth, just awful, just talking through. But then it would start to happen. And that's what I've realised when you're talking through a trick on your own. You don't have to be a great script, just to know what you're saying when you do your top change or you do your riffle force. Just maybe 3 points of knowing that you're going to say that then, but actually talking through it just makes you feel more confident when you do it. And that's actually what I found with this trick today. Even though the script was terrible, I don't really have anything to say, I still said a thing. And it was literally like, okay, let's have a look at what that card is, as I did a thing. So that's it, let's run through them again. There's loads more, obviously. Listening to magicians and not your audience, number 1. Listening to your audience and not magicians, number 2. And if you haven't, go back and watch that if you're watching late. Not listening to yourself, really important one. Rushing forward and not staying at basics for long enough, or not going back to basics because your ego's stopping you because you think I should know that and you fool yourself that you do. Waiting too long to perform a trick or show someone a trick or try it out on a friend. Seeing a mistake or a bad performance as a failure, you must not, it's part of the process, and not rehearsing. That is a big thing. And there's loads of other stuff, but I'm going to leave it at that. Right, let's have a look. Any questions? Hi Meg Hogan fan, how are you? Love the honesty, thanks very much. Thanks Patrick. Thanks Dave. Start with easy stuff, self-work, absolutely. To get your confidence up, performing and learning that you can fool people when you introduce new slides, it will be much less stressful. Yeah, that happens a lot, doesn't it? And I've very much been guilty of that. Because I knew I could do sleights, it was like everything has to be sleight of hand. And don't get me wrong, you want to try those sleights out in some way. But again, if you're learning maybe a classic force, you know, you do the classic thing, excuse the pun, of doing it when you don't need to do it. So that's a good place. But do a trick, like I said, self-workers. And I think I spoke last time about watching the Richard Osterlind. Remember watching the L&L DVDs, and he started with Bank Night, and it was pretty much a self-working version of Bank Night. Now he said on it, I think, if I'm remembering rightly, he said that he loves to start with it because it's just, he doesn't have to think, he kind of just does it itself, and by the time he's comfortable on stage, and that happens a lot. Once you're in and you're confident, you feel like you can do anything on stage, but very rarely do I feel like that in the first 2 minutes. And it doesn't have to be on stage, as I said, it can be anywhere. So make it very, very easy on yourself. I showed some friends some magic earlier it was at the weekend, and I went down and it was someone that I really wanted to impress, to be honest. and it wasn't it wasn't a potential partner or anything like that, but it was someone that I knew that if they liked what I did, it might maybe. Well, I just wanted them to like what I did because they did stuff that I like what they did. So I made sure I did something that I could do without even thinking about it, and that worked. And then later I tried something that was a little bit kind of risky because I was confident. So really good point. Thank you. Frank, yeah, that's a great one. Frank says buying tricks based on the trailer alone. Oh yes, that's a great. And I would say buying too many tricks rather than actually spending time learning this stuff, I think is another. That's a great one, Frank. Yeah, because we all know now, don't we? And I always think it's. And if you're not a magician, I say if you're booking a performer, if you were booking a magician, I would say booking a magician based on the promo alone, because we can all make a decent promo, can't we? We can edit all manner of things, and I think it's right. You wait until you read what people are saying. Take it with a pinch of salt, because I've heard tricks that are slated that actually are quite good. But you can usually read between the lines, and I think listen to people, find a group of people you trust, and say what's it like, and hopefully. You trust certain reviewers like me and other people like David Magic Orthodoxy and all the other guys and Craig. And you find your review. I do that with films. I love Mark Kermode. I know that even if he says he doesn't like a film, I know because of the way he reviews films that I might like it because of why he doesn't like it. So I think that's an important thing as well. Not being part of the Card Magic course. Nicholas, well done. Beginner mistake. There you go. Boom. cardmagiccourse.com. The card force that you did earlier in the video, I have trouble sliding it quickly and discreetly. Absolutely. Can you give me some tips on how to do it smoothly and quickly? Yes, I can, Patrick, if you join cardmagiccourse.com. I can't give it away here because I know a lot of people do. All I would say is it's just repetition, that one, all right? But it's repetition, breaking it down. Buckle the card, slide it under, move slightly to your left when you do it, make sure the deck's low enough. And I would also say, I'll give you a little tip. No, that's not on. I was going to put my GoPro on, but it ain't on. A little tip for all that cold stuff, I'll give you a little bit, is as you're spreading cards slightly forward, if you put them slightly forward like that, that's exaggerated, they will cover what's going on underneath sometimes. That's all I'm giving you. Join the course and ask me on a live session. I'm a locksmith and I've been performing for my customers and I've been getting very nice tips. But how do I get the wow factor? Sometimes I sometimes don't. I find that, Douglas, a couple of things with customers and people, and this is important, I think. Nobody really knows, I was actually say it in my show, nobody really knows how to react to magic. When you get big groups of people in a social situation, they're kind of primed to give you that response, aren't they? They're primed to come. They're in a good mood, and they're maybe a lot of time out of drinks. They're not as self-conscious. When you show one person a trick, or two people, or even three people, if they're not in that state of mind, they could still find something absolutely amazing and not physically respond in that action of wow, it's amazing. And I've found it. I remember talking about the center tear earlier. It stuns people. Often to the point that you don't get a response. But you can, if you look at them, they'll be like, and then if you wait, you'll get the response. And actually, we measure responses. I showed this trick to Carly Erna for, she doesn't like it. And what she was really doing is processing it. And then she went, that's amazing. But before that, she just looked like she was staring into space. Do you know what I mean? So it's very hard for us to accurately read responses. If you can, I find it easy to read something where they're just totally not impressed. And if you don't know, I do ask people sometimes, not if I'm performing professionally. I don't kind of go, do you like that? But I will. Kind of say, what do you think? And, do you think that's a good trick? Because she's seen a few things. So, but yeah, it's a really hard one to judge, I think. On a social situation or with your mates, you can learn what their responses are. But I would keep tweaking it. I was thinking that, look, one of the things I just don't get a laugh at is the baby gag, right? If you know the baby gag, I did it earlier as part of Craig Petty's thing. And I've tried it a few times. I never really gets a laugh, and I don't know why. It might be me, it might be my timing. So if you want to keep doing it, and you know you like it, then keep trying to tweak different bits of timing. With me, I'm kind of happy not doing it. But I wanted to try it out. But yeah, certain gags that I've seen really storm with people, just I haven't got laughs at it, just 'cause it isn't me. And it might be that. It might be that the trick isn't you. It might be that it's, not a great trick. Try showing it to other people and so you haven't got that just one group of people. You need a kind of control group and you'll get an idea of whether it's a strong one. Can someone post a link to the card magic course? Yes, cardmagiccourse.com. There you go. I'll do it in a minute. I'll do it now, shall I? This is entertaining, isn't it? Oh God, I pressed the wrong button and we'll all disappear. There you go. Boom. Done it. Thank you. Right, so there you go. 25 minutes. So thanks a lot for coming. I shall be here next Thursday, 5 o'clock, with answering another question. Or if you've got any other questions, put it on the list and put them in the comments. Not these ones, because these kind of disappear sometimes, I think, but the ones that will be there once it's processed and it's up, which will be about 10, 15 minutes after this. But thanks very much. And those of Card Magic Course people, I shall see you in half an hour, 34 minutes. And those of you that aren't, join cardmagiccourse.com and you'll get an invite. It'll be too late now for that one, but you'll get an invite next time. And see you soon. Take care. Have a great one. Don't judge wow factors on what is on the internet. The audience is even being paid, or the magician has filmed. Absolutely, yeah. You can't judge that. Or they edit in a different trick to the different audience. So thanks everybody. Take care. Have a great one. Be safe. Bye bye.